Hi, this podcast is Straight Out of Dementia with Rick Liberty. I am Rick Liberty. The podcast series is about the many facets of dementia. For the afflicted of neurodegeneration with the mind in great decline, and for the caretakers and their loved ones who lived with the afflicted. Before getting into things, let me say some information. I am not a doctor. I am not an expert. I am just a person with opinions based on my own personal journey and experience with dementia. Also, let me please ask of you for your accommodation for my consequential limitations and shortcomings, and for any inaccuracies or missteps or mistakes or errors, possibly for odd word choices, slurred or elongated words, even weird edits in this very video and ugly transitions. It is all simply impossible for me to remember and deliver this podcast and all of its information, even when I know it in my mind, without a lot of effort, a lot of editing and reference. Of course, I will do my best, and I hope it will be compelling and interesting and add something to the world, despite the effort that it might take for me. Thank you.
Well, I think you're doing a great job.
So why do I anticipate the need for accommodation and understanding for my podcast? Let me give a little bit of information and background about me. My qualifications, such that they are, revolve around my own affliction and suffering from neurodegeneration, from dementia. I was ultimately diagnosed with dementia at 51 years old, which is considered quite early. But my symptoms became publicly visible even earlier than that. I was experiencing visible problems and challenges as early as the age of 48. Although I will delve deeper into my early signs and eventual diagnosis of dementia in the future, let me share some notable early clues. So, what were some of the early clues of my descent into dementia? Well, I began using, dare I say, I depended on sticky notes and any kind of book notes I could write down anywhere to track and remember things, to track everything. I compensated for my failing memory by using work notes, tasks, meetings, action items. I even color-coded everything in groups so I could easily find them in quick reference. I even pre-wrote meeting notes and summaries before the meetings happened. Many people thought, wow, what Jedi mind tricks and powers he has to see the future. But really, I was compensating for the fact that I would unlikely remember everything in the meeting. I would unlikely recall critical information or tasks that were agreed upon, or certainly who was going to do something. So writing everything down beforehand allowed me to quickly modify what happened in the meeting as opposed to actually be able to juggle it all in the moment.
But you are a Jedi. You are. You're just a Jedi with dementia.
I developed a few other techniques to compensate or hide my dementia. I would sometimes write down every single person's name who entered a room, ideally even noting where they sat down, so that when they spoke, I would know who was talking, and ideally even what role they represented or what group they were part of, because I simply, very unlikely, would remember them in the moment, even if I might remember them an hour later. That's one of the problems with short-term recall. It's just not there when you want it. I think my trouble with memory and multitude of little, probably missteps that I didn't even see, ultimately resulted in people calling me old school. It was a clear discrimination of ageism, but there's nothing I could really do about it. It just became quite widespread. Hey, there's old school. It was not exactly a compliment at all. Of course, it was pretty common for people to say, oh, it's not an insult or discrimination. It's just a sign of your age. After all, almost all of the engineers are now half your age. The oldest are 2/3 your age. So, of course, I naturally was old school. You know, doctors all say that I present very well. Some would even question that I actually had dementia, until they started doing neuropsych tests and other things to kind of drill in and find out how remarkably many holes I have in my mind and my brain, how little information I can now retain, or how I cannot recall things very quickly. Anyway, so I think it's important to look at what someone was compared to what they are to see the descent into dementia, as opposed to saying there's some line that people fall down, that's dementia, and above it it's not. It's relative to what someone was to measure how far down in decline, degenerated their mind has become.
But you do present so well. Sometimes so well, I even forget. Until, of course, things melt down.
So let me give you a little more background about who I am so you can know where I was and get a sense of where I am now, even if perhaps you think I am presenting very well. I don't really know. So here's some of my background. I hold a degree of distinction in the National Forensics League, called the NFL. It is for public speaking and debate, mock trials, all sorts of things. But now I struggle to even speak into this camera. I shake, I have problems to even maintain a sentence or remember what I was saying. It's why you'll sometimes or often see me look down and kind of scan at my notes, my teleprompter, if you will. I even struggle to speak without pausing in these weird little slurred words here and there, or almost like tics that interrupt me. So who was I professionally then? Well, I am a former Chief Technology Officer from Electronic Arts in Canada, where I made video games and directed a group of over 300 people. I was also a studio director at Microsoft on Xbox, as well as for augmented reality on HoloLens. I oversaw cloud analytics and technologies in both Electronic Arts as well as parts in Microsoft. I have quite a lot of technology background. I often gave what was equivalent to TED Talks to groups of about 175 people on average, to teach and guide everything from technologies to mentorships to how to do better interviews. I even modified the curriculum in many Canadian universities. I have quite the background in technologies, video game and cloud and analytics. I even worked in artificial intelligence for quite some time while at Microsoft. All said, I have over 30 years of professional experience making and publishing video games, working with internal and external teams, contract groups and employees of very large organizations, working with very advanced technologies, analytics, artificial intelligence, and cloud technologies. I am also the author of The Adventures of Rick Liberty and the Hell Difficulty Saga podcasts, which currently spans 8 books, nearly 2,500 pages in all. The saga includes all books narrated by me as podcasts on YouTube and Rumble. All total, there are 373 original videos available to watch, which represent 80 hours of narrated content. And even more, there are nearly 25,000 AI-generated art images woven throughout all the videos to represent the scenes, the characters, and the entire experience, hopefully making it very real and compelling. Also, so here we are. It took 7 years to make The Adventures of Rick Liberty and the Hell Difficulty Saga. 8 books, 2,500 pages, 25,000 AI-generated art images, and 80 hours of video content. I hope you take the time and go check it out. You can find the books as PDFs, video links, and playlists and artwork on my website, crocks.com. Please check it out. Again, the website is crocks.com. That's SEA hyphen or a horizontal dash bar rocks, ROCKS.com, crocks.com. Again, YouTube and Rumble video lists and playlists, great artwork, the books, they're all there.
Oh yeah, the videos, the books, they're really, really awesome. I love them. They're so inspiring and imaginative. Everyone will love them too. I'm sure of it.
This podcast, Straight Out Dementia with Rick Liberty, will be a collection of ideas and considerations for people living with someone with dementia and those afflicted with dementia, especially their caretakers and their loved ones. This podcast series is very personal to me because, as I've said earlier, I have been diagnosed and have been living with dementia for quite a while. So I have a lot of ideas and experience with dementia.
Oh, everyone has experience with dementia when they live with someone who has dementia.
We will talk about recognizing and living with dementia. Most notably, we will talk about the early and late stages and symptoms of dementia. We'll be talking about normal mental acuity decline from natural degeneration in old age, as opposed to advancing neurodegeneration, true dementia. We will go over ideas revolving around dementia, especially considering the varied perspectives of caretakers and the afflicted. We will talk about possible coping and management tools and techniques to help those with dementia to function, and as they call it, not to decompensate or melt down and just go crazy. This podcast is mostly a stream of consciousness for me as Rick Liberty. Topics will extend beyond simple talk musings. I will also try to share poetry, prose stories as readings as well as original creations. So please bear with my challenges, my missteps and mistakes. Please forgive my inaccuracies or incomplete or flawed even ideas or statements, as I am suffering from neurodegeneration and from dementia. Everything is hard. But being hard does not mean defeat. It just means everything takes longer and is especially difficult. We can all triumph as long as we do not give up. I hope you enjoy the podcast series, Straight Out Dementia with Rick Liberty.
Hey, it may be emotional, but remember, any show that I am in is gonna be great. Please subscribe, like, and come back.